and today we're going to be doing another character design session. Again, this character design is based off of the Monster Girl Maker app, but I ended up not really following that too well, especially with the outfit. Um, but yeah, let's get into it. So essentially, I drew this character. Ow! I drew this character like 4 different times, I believe, and you'll see that. Um, I was just trying to make her pose way more dynamic than it was because this pose, it's like it's all nursey and professional, but it doesn't really show you her character. Um, it just shows you that she takes her job seriously. And then this pose, she could be like sultry, and I didn't really want her to come off as sultry. I wanted her to come off as really clumsy, and like a cutesy character who's not necessarily unintelligent, but just like a klutz, and probably doesn't belong there. And then I think the final sketch is coming up right now. Here we go. So here's the final sketch. Dun, 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 dun. And I wanted her to have a really pear-shaped body because I feel like that would bring visual interest away from the chest, and up to the face. Because I feel like a lot of the times when you have like a really busty character, your eyes are kind of drawn there, and that's not a bad thing by any means. But I wanted the accentuation to be a lot towards her face, especially because I was trying to, give her like a horrified facial expression as she's dropping this thing. But also because of the fact that later on you'll see that I add like this webbed outline to her ears, and then I add gills. So I kind of wanted the focus to be, if you were looking at her upper half, you wouldn't really be staring at her chest too much. You would be staring more of her head. I guess it kind of doesn't make any sense. That was just my thought process. I was like, if she has a really busty body, then all the focus will be away from her head. And I wanted a lot of focus on her head. But yeah, so I went with the Peter Pan collar instead of the cute little flowery scalloped edge collar that the original thing has because I just didn't really like it. Um, I didn't like it for this character. Uh, and to be honest, it does suit her. She's like a really cutesy. It'd be something she would wear on her off days, but I didn't think that a nurse's outfit would really consist of that. So instead, I went for a Peter Pan collar, which is more consistent in my idea of what like a um, Halloween nurse is. And I didn't really want her to resemble like a real nurse too much because obviously she's not. She's not a real kid. Like she's not human. So I didn't want her to be in like scrubs or anything because I wanted it to be like what these creatures envision human life is. And when we see movies of nurses, they're wearing absurd outfits that don't make any sense. So I wanted her too to wear an absurd outfit that doesn't make any sense. So she's wearing like a smock apron, which they used to wear a long, long time ago. To protect from like body fluids and stuff. They used to have like tons of aprons. Um, each nurse had like 12 or something like that a long time ago, and these were mostly nurses who were out on the battlefield, and they're like their aprons were huge. Hers is obviously short and more for like cutesy aesthetic purposes, but it does have a reason. She doesn't want the body fluid like on her, um, or that fluid that's spilling out on her. And I think a majority of what she's wearing is for like aesthetic purposes because in all reality, they are trying to mimic human behavior. But the tennis shoes are more because that just makes more sense. Like nobody's going to wear heels in their workplace. I don't know a single person who like wears heels, in their workplace, unless I guess if you're like doing a work where you require heels, like a drag queen, I guess. I guess then you would need, well, you don't need heels. Okay, I'm not getting into this. Anyway, I didn't think heels would be make any sense. So we didn't go with that. We went with tennis shoes, and then obviously she has the thigh-high socks because I think that's just cute, which is a dumb reason to put it on here, but hey. So here's the addition of the gills and the webbed ear to make her look a little bit more fishy. Because I think that the whole fish aesthetic, just because I made her look like, I gave her skin like the koi fish feeling, I feel like it wasn't obvious enough that she was a fish. And then here's a little bit of a cartoon exaggeration. Her bow literally fell off her head because she was so, startled, I guess, or she tripped over her own feet. I didn't really come up with a story for why she was falling. She's just falling. And that stuff is going to spill in her face, and she's very afraid of it. Okay, so this is the part that I didn't really cover too well. One, her neck, if you look at the sketch to the final ink, it's a lot shorter. I did that off camera. Sorry for not recording that, but that's just how life is. Two, there's a thing around her neck that I didn't really color because I forgot about it, to be honest. But that thing is keeping a constant flow of oxygenated water running through her gills. And that was just to make more sense as to why she can be on land, because I was thinking to myself and I was like, it doesn't make any sense that she would have gills if she can, if she has like lungs where she can breathe like oxygen. Or I guess not what I meant, but like, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't make any sense if she can take oxygen from the air to have gills, because that's the whole point of gills. And so I was like, okay, well, if I want her to have gills because I want to give off the obvious impression that she is a fish, then how am I going to deal with that? So I was like, okay, she has this a tube around her neck that constantly is running oxygenated water over her gills, getting her the oxygen that she needs. And then the back is like on the back of her neck, there's like this little metal thing that is taking the oxygen from the air, pushing it into her lungs, which is kind of how a sponge filter works in real life aquariums. So my knowledge of aquariums kind of helped me there. Otherwise, I don't think I would have known what to do. But yeah, and then we're going to go through a whole adventure of me drawing a background. And to be honest, I didn't go with the background. We did not keep the background. So this whole adventure of the background was all for naught. And you can be disappointed in me. Trust me, I'm disappointed in me. And me moving the character over without like combining all the layers didn't make any sense, because now I had to go through all this. And this is a long, long part of the video of me just fixing up the coloring. It was so stupid. If I was going to move the character, I should have just moved her before I even started coloring. I don't know why I did it like this. Don't do it like this. It's painful. And if you're going to do it like this, combine all your layers so you're moving it all together. I'm sure there's a really efficient way of moving them all at once without combining all the layers. I just don't know it. And we're human. We make mistakes. So here we are. But yeah, I think that's most of what I have to talk about. I kept all of her coloring really to the colors of a koi fish. I didn't really use a reference to color pick off of. I know what koi fish look like, so I went with that. Although maybe if I had used a reference, the colors would have been a little too saturated. I think that was what my whole reasoning behind it was. I didn't want the colors to be really saturated, because I don't think that if you're drawing like a natural character, like a beastly character or a monster, the colors of their skin isn't going to be that saturated, because obviously it's a being. Colors on beings aren't very saturated. Even like a fox, you say with like a bright orange, it's still not that saturated. It's not like a overwhelming color, like a neon orange. It's just, a color. It's not too saturated. So I was like, I'm just not going to make the colors that saturated, because she's obviously an organic being. And I guess I could talk about color theory and saturated colors versus unsaturated colors in a different video if anyone's interested. But personally, I just think that unsaturated colors really do an organic character, justice. Whereas if you're making a character like, say you're making an android, and you have like the bright blue ring on their temple, that makes sense. They're not an organic being. Go for it. Unsaturated colors. And of course, my word is not law. Saturated colors work in a lot of illustrations, but that's just my opinion. Here's me messing with the background, which I am going to delete later on, so don't get like too hung up. And if you own fish, the background poster that says a sprinkle a day should be humorous to you, because when you have fish, you put aquarium salt in there every time you do a water change to keep their health in check. Haha, I'm so hilarious. I guess I was just trying to be like funny with my fish knowledge. But yeah, I used blue to shade her skin because I didn't want to use red because there's a lot of reds in this. So I was like, blue will be more fascinating to the eye. And then I used red for the body and black for her hair to shade, obviously. And I just did some simple cell shading. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this image as much as I did. I'll see you guys soon. Have a good one.